Hey guys, this is my discussion board for session 5 talking about Augustine. What kept Augustine from surrendering to Christ was a lot of wrestling of deep theological issues that he was having. He was also really struggling with the fact that pagan writings just sounded better, honestly. It's kind of how I interpreted the lecture. He felt like the Christian writings didn't sound good enough and the pagan writings just had so much more to offer, and so he was like, well, obviously Christianity can't be for me. And the lecture also talks about how he felt like the world was so evil and this Christian God had to be the reason for that, and he just couldn't surrender to that. And so it took him quite a while, but the person who was instrumental in turning his life to seeking God was Ambrose, who is discussed, this bishop of Milan, who was able to really help Augustine to understand and bring him into his circle of acquaintances. And I think too, this wasn't exactly like mentioned in the lecture, but I think there's such a good chance that his mom was also helping in this. They were told about his mom's devoutness to Christianity, and I'm sure that she had a lot of intercession in her prayers for Augustine, and I'm sure she had many conversations. It said that whenever he spent his time with the group, that she was really upset about it, and she was sad that he was so devout towards them. And whenever he did finally have his conversion, that she was thrilled and so excited, and so sad that she died so shortly after. But yeah, I would say obviously Ambrose, but his mom definitely had a lot to do with that. What makes Augustine's life and testimony so engaging after all these centuries? I think it's obvious from the fact that we're still talking about him that he had a lot to do, but he also was just interesting in the fact that his writings continued to be studied during the barbarian invasions. He was the last great church father of the antiquity, and so obviously the things that he was saying were really, really important, and we are still able to use just his testimony of the first ever written down testimony. We're able to use that and see how he was transformed in such a huge way. He went from living in such aggressive sexual sin and having this concubine and living with her for 15 years and having a child out of wedlock. And while that's not like the worst sin ever, obviously, because that's not a thing, it was definitely something that he was completely engrossed in. But to then see his complete and utter transformation is incredible. And so having his life documented so well is really helpful and gives us a lot of insight, and all of the things that he learned and was able to profess theologically, and all of that has been really helpful for us. So I think it's good that we're still talking about him and learning about him.